see there, we're getting on the road and over to Tampa. 5 o'clock in the morning. That's what time you got to get up to get over there. Going over there to speak, the Hillsborough County Commission.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Kearns. I reside in Palm Bay, Florida. I come to you this morning. I want to thank Deputy County Attorney Mr. Odom for giving me this information that's up on your screen here.
Okay, we're out here in St. Cloud, after being on the road. And it's just occurring to me that, you know, how arrogant the Hillsborough County Commission is.
The Board of County Commissioners, representing District 1, Sandra Marmon. Representing District 2, Victor Christ. Representing District 3, Les Miller. Representing District 4, Al Higginbotham. Representing Countywide District 5, Ken Hagan. Representing Countywide District 6, Kevin Beckner. Representing Countywide District 7, Mark Sharp. The County Administrator is Mike Merrill. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue.
You know, your supervisor of elections office is dirty. I mean, that's what I've been saying over and over again. In not so many words, and sometimes precisely that. They're stealing elections in Hillsborough County. And you people are sitting there and doing nothing about it. I mean, I've been saying that over and over again. And they just go on with what they're doing. It's an elitist body of bureaucrats and legislators, former legislators. And, you know, you can say something like that, and then a minute later they bang the gavel, they're on the consent agenda, they vote on that toot sweet, wham.
Motion carries 7-0.
I mean, it's just bureaucratic thuggery and arrogance, you know. To have to drive over here to get them to do their job on my own dime. I mean, it's the ultimate disgrace. Public officials behaving this way, you know.
should all be very diligent in making sure that votes are counted and accurately counted. But we did refer your inquiry over to Supervisor Elections Office, which we don't have any jurisdiction over, and we have forwarded a basic response. It probably won't be satisfactory to you completely, but it did indicate that they identified the problem as a defective OSX tabulator unit. It was replaced. They checked it. They believe that it's working. But anyway, there has been an initial response to your inquiry, and then from that you can proceed with additional questions.
That closes the public comment portion of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the amendment? So moved. Motion, Commissioner Becker. For a second. Second, Commissioner Higginbotham. Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Attitude. Bureaucratic thuggery, like I said. So they could adopt, any time, they could adopt a resolution to demand that division elections come in and look at their election. The one that happened November 2nd, 2010. But they won't do it. And why won't they do it? Well, sure. One of the reasons they won't do it is because I think between four of them were elected the night Rick Scott was elected. I walked out of there without any kind of documentation. So,
Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners.
Last speaker this morning, David Kearns.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Kearns. I'm an author. I wrote Rick Scott, Enemy of the State. I was assured last time I came here that it had something in writing concerning the glitched election here in Hillsborough County that gave us Rick Scott. We are a year and 3 months since the events which resulted in the erasure of 38,000 votes, all from early voting, many from minority communities or locations where students vote. Events I feel are evidence of bad faith, a stolen election. Reviewing now, I've asked for an official explanation from our State Attorney General. She handed over to the Secretary of State. He resigned, perhaps rather than issue a statement or even feign an investigation. Question I asked 2 weeks ago, I asked Earl Leonard at the Supervisor of Elections Office in the presence of MIS Director Tim Bobanek and Chief of Staff Craig Latimer, July 21st of this year. I was told a ballot screw-up happened during the primary, not the general election. By Mr. Leonard, neither Mr. Bobanek nor Mr. Latimer corrected him. He also told me that the events were done by 10:30 in the evenings, just absolutely contrary to the historic record. You take a deliberate statement like this, the word glitch, and you add some of these circumstances about the Supervisor of Elections Office here. I hate this. I'm a writer. I was going to write a book that was kind of just sniping at Tea Party Rick. And then I asked a simple question. How did he get elected? And this is what happened. I uncovered, not uncovered, I mean this is Google. We had Buddy Johnson's tenure. You had millions of dollars apparently moved around. You had a federal investigation. You had an arsonist working for the Hillsborough Supervisor of Elections Office. You had $336,000 in transition costs were given to Ms. Busansky in order for her to clean up some of the mess. I don't think that was all that you guys voted on for that. Ms. Busansky died while undergoing her investigations. I hate to bring that up. I know a lot of you guys really adored her. You had Earl Leonard, who was given the position by Charlie Crist, and is a Republican taking over for a Democrat. And he promised these things would never happen again. And then you had the worst glitch in the history of voting, perhaps in the state, 38,000 votes. There's been no written report from the Secretary of State's office or anyone. I believe these machines by Dominion voting are used to steal elections over and over again. I think they stole this one. Since there's no report, I can't go to county commissions and say, this happened, this is what happened, and here are the newspaper reports. County commissions and other parts of the state don't believe this happened. My own county commission was mystified that 38,000 ballots were tainted in this way. Just want to say one more thing, and I'll finish.
Quickly, sir.
When elections are stolen in Florida, people die. We end up in needless wars. We end up in financial crises, the like of which we haven't seen the bottom of yet. We need to get rid of Dominion voting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
So, the report essentially says, he sent a report, he sent the November 14th off to them and said, look, it said, we don't know what's wrong with your machines, you know. 12 memory cards failed to upload their data to the server so we could count the votes. And then we had to have us rescan it. We drive all the votes around in the middle of the night, we rush job and cram them all back through the machines. Oh, Thibodeau and Boudreaux. Yeah, Thibodeau and Boudreaux is an old Louisiana thing. I'm not from there, but I've friends are from there. Anyway, kind of bayou bureaucracy going on there. You know, drive the votes around. See, that's the thing. You know, that's disenfranchising people is what's going on there. You know, minority votes. Well, we got to do something special with them. I mean, this is so old school, cracker redneck BS. Well, minorities and young students and poor peoples, we're going to have to do something a little bit different with their votes. That's what that is. Drive them around the middle of the night, shuffle and jive, cram them back through the machines. You know, ballots, 14 to 17 inches long. I believe the ballot used that night was 17 inches long. So that means 38,000 ballots, and this is the story now, were jammed back through the machines. 38,000 ballots, 17 inches of ballots. That's every bit of 7 miles long. You stretch them end to end. We're led to believe that took place over a period of 3 hours. 15 people furiously cramming those ballots back to the machine. No, sir. No. That did not happen. That did not happen.
Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners.
There is a lot of methane in Canada, and there is an energy future for the country.
Thank you, sir. Last speaker this morning is going to be David Kearns. And again, for those that did not have an opportunity to speak this morning, they'll have a chance this afternoon at the end of the board's agenda. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Kearns. I drive here from Brevard County. I live at 668 Dunbarton Circle, Palm Bay, Florida. I'm an author of several books, and including my latest, Rick Scott, Enemy of the State. Yes, I am a Democrat, and they should all be allowed to vote. Their votes should be permitted to count. I've asked since July for any written documentation regarding the erasure of 38,000 votes, mostly in District 3 on election night, November 2nd, 2010. Since July, regarding an event that happened in 2010. Just as a reminder, 38,000 votes, that's 5 miles long ballots stretched end to end. And we're left to believe that in 3 hours, 15 poll workers jammed these back through the optical scan machines in order to recount those, or rescan those 38,000 votes. This isn't the way the system was designed to work, by the way. I was told by the supervisor of elections that this happened during the primary. Then I was told, well, it was all wrapped up by 10:30. I was in the presence of Mr. Tim Bobanek. I was also in the presence of Earl Leonard and Craig Latimer. Okay, so for that, the supervisor of elections should be in violation of Article 1, Section A and Section 3, Article 3, Sections A, B, and C of your ethics code. Perhaps even Article 4, Section A and B. Certainly Article 5, Section A of your ethics code. The County Commission has been approached by me several times now. Continuing to ignore the request and petition from a member of the public seems clearly a violation of Section 1A of your ethics code. The County Commission could also be in violation of Article 5, Section A. Yes, I am a Democrat, but I will perform my duties without favor, comes the language of that. It is inconceivable to me that there isn't some sort of incident report to accompany the erasure of these votes. Counties have incident reports, a forklift cracks, a shipment of computers, incident report. Yet a glitch that seems to have a demographic prejudice, a political agenda, services in 2008 and 2010 will race votes, the latest case the most egregious, and apparently there isn't the first incident report. If there is, one hasn't been pointed to me. I hope it's not a case of, it's somewhere here in the county, and you have to find it. Good luck. At any time, this body could stop my continued repeated appearances here by furnishing me that document. What seems to ring loudest here is the inescapable conclusion that perhaps the Hillsborough County Commission, which paid millions for these machines, which apparently do not work when Democrats vote on them, and the Hillsborough County Commission doesn't particularly care that they don't, and are staunchly united in their lack of concern as we face the 2012 election. This is very concerning to me. You have several folks here who have future political aspirations based on staunch conservatism and guardianship of the public.
Appreciate your comments, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes the public comment portion of the agenda. Can we have a motion to amend the consent? Motion, Commissioner Miller. Or second? Second, Commissioner Beckner. Please call your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
We have one item that was pulled.
You imagine 2 seconds of ballot. They can't make that. No. Can't make that in 3 hours. No. Didn't happen that way. So we had the flippity-flam. Earl Leonard sent off and said the machine doesn't work. The machine company sent back March 3rd and said, what your people are doing is essentially a hot extraction. So what they're doing is they're taking they have to burn the memory cards with the vote counting software. That means they have to put the vote counting software on the memory cards, which are then sent out to the early voting precincts, in this case. All early voting, yeah. So the memory cards themselves didn't receive the proper complement of software, okay, in 12 cases. And then those memory cards, as though on the backs of guided missiles, were sent out to early voting places. And in the last 3 days of early voting, this prevented the upload of the votes in 50% of those early votes. Okay, 50%, which then resulted in the curious drive around the middle of the night with the votes in bags, run on back to the Falkenberg Road Annex. I'm going to start calling that place the Fakenberg Road. And then cram the ballots back through the machines. No, sir. No, sir. That's not how it happened. Okay? So you have the voting machine company blaming the Supervisor of Elections office, and you have the Supervisor of Elections office, the last word he has on it is that something wrong with the machine. And in a year and 3 months, there hasn't been the slightest bit of an investigation into which of these two is correct. Okay? Which of these two is correct? You know? And the intellectual curiosity of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners with regard to this, you couldn't measure that with the most delicate instruments known to science. They have zero intellectual interest, intellectual curiosity with regard to this. Now, you either have voting machines that you spent millions on, okay, that don't work, or you have people rigging elections inside the Hillsborough Supervisor of Elections office. The supervisor himself hasn't determined which. He hasn't gone any further in his quest than to receive feedback from the machine company says, y'all shouldn't pull the cards out of the machine before all the software can download. Okay. Now, how did that happen? The neat part about that, which is essentially your kid pulling out the CD from the CD burner before his favorite song is put on it. Tell me that'll happen.
Ahí viene la tapa.
Okay, here we go. How do I look? I gotta come back out here and add more time. They won't let you buy more time than 2 hours at a pop. All part of the wonderfulness.
Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners.
I want to thank Deputy County Attorney Mr. Odom for giving me this information that's up on your screen here. My concerns are relative to the Supervisor of Elections Office, and I was given two answers which are diametrically opposed to each other, with being totally unresolved as far as the election of November 2nd, 2010. Supervisor of Elections indicates that 12 early voting memory cards were not able to upload to the GEM server. So essentially he says that he sent this system off to the system that coded the cards off to Dominion for look-see to determine the cause of the error. So he's asserting that Dominion is the cause. This was in November 14th this report came out. Now Dominion sent back as early as March 1 that after performing set of election a memory card and the removing of the memory card from the AccuVote OSX unit while the unit was still active or a hot removal. So essentially pulling the CD out of the CD burner prior to the song downloading. And not once, but 12 times in a row. Now somewhere between time 2 and time 12, we're not looking at an accident anymore. In a general note, I'll say that elections are being stolen using the machines or the pretext of failures in the machines throughout the state of Florida and throughout the country. And that's a very grown-up statement to go ahead and assert. But 12 times in a row defies logic. That's not an accident. And this issue is completely unresolved. You have two answers and no resolution as to which one is right. Have you ever asked yourself why the Supervisor of Elections hasn't resolved this issue? Also, just speaking of willful blindness, it is a term in law. We have no signature from any county commissioner relative to the sign-off on the canvassing board here. Not one of the county commissioners wish to be a part of this election. You just did honor to Phyllis Busansky this morning by mentioning her name. You could further do honor by getting a resolution together to direct staff to send to the Division of Elections a request to investigate the election as it was held here in Hillsborough County. You do her a great honor, and you do an honor to yourselves to remind the citizens of the state of Florida, the United States of America, and Hillsborough County that you care about the sanctity of the vote here in Florida.
And I too apologize for the actions that took place. We are in a society where First Amendment rights are a right, and everyone should be allowed to exercise those First Amendment rights. But there is a time and a place that is deemed appropriate to be able to do that. And in a room where we're trying to reach consensus and address the people's business, there needs to be a certain level of decorum in order for us to do that. And as
you're talking about ghettoizing now. That's what you really want to do. If you want to run for office and you're registered to vote and you are a U.S. citizen, move where you want to live and vote.
Thank you. Then challenge. That concludes the public comment portion of the agenda. Sure. One person, Commissioner Miller.
Let the point person go for it. See you there. We got good lawyers sitting right there.
Mr. Chairman, his comments were not correct. We have built sustainable buildings in Hillsborough County.
Somebody else, I would try it. I just am of the opinion that,
You just saw was the illustrious media doing their job. Sanctity of vote is in question, and they're concentrating on this. Okay, further documenting updates. Okay. Yesterday I attended the county commission meeting. This morning, the website didn't have the first session. The website for Hillsborough Television didn't have the first session on their website. It was blank. Went down to Hillsborough County Television. They said it was a result of sunspot activity. So they did give me a disc with my 3-minute segment on it, but they didn't give me the full disc. But they said the entire session from the early morning would be up. So then I went over to Kathy Castor's office, representative in Congress. It took some doing, but I finally got in to see one of her legislative aides and told him the story start to finish. And he informed me, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'll have to research. And it's just probably because I don't live over here that I didn't know this, but he told me that Mark Sharp, the county commissioner, had dropped out of the race. Suspended his campaign after the finalization of the district lines came out. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it might have already been reported about in the newspapers, and bad on me for not knowing, but I want to make sure I said this yesterday. I believe I did, but 4 of the county commission members, at least 4, maybe 5, I'll have to take a look at this, were elected the night Rick Scott was elected. And like I told Kathy Castor's aide, Tom, I don't have his last name, it's on the card, I said, listen, that they probably aren't going to be real hot to investigate this. And he just nodded, I mean, 4, they're not going to call the Division of Elections, which they didn't yesterday. They absolutely made no move to say, yes, we are going to contact the Division of Elections and look into this right away, sir. They didn't even mention it. They didn't comment on it. Because, of course, they had the diversionary issue of the entire world beating up on a 78-year-old woman for her unfortunate comments, unfortunate and somewhat racially charged comments, let's say, the previous meeting. So they spent full hour, of course, lambasting a 78-year-old woman. And the Tampa Times this morning, of course, was all over it. Full on 15, I would say 12 to 15 column inches. Again, reviewing the unfortunate comments of a senior citizen who has a medical ailment that really prevents her from speaking too much above a whisper. Okay? Someone's grandmother who said something retrograde because she's from the 19-whatevers, And there, of course, so the media has its dog and pony show with the editor saying, run down there and talk about racism, So there's full on 15 column inches on that. It totally ignores the issue that I brought to the table. But then you can expect this. You can expect this. The editors have been told not to look into it. WSP in Tampa contacted me after the meeting. Their photojournalist got my information. I got to get some business cards on it. I don't know what to put on a business card, to be honest. What do you put on a business card? Underwear vlogger. You know, is that it? What do you put on a, you know, who am I? I'm an author. I guess I just put a business card. Author. Voting rights activist. I don't, you know, I guess I do that. But, yeah, no forward progress as far as them, you know, doing their job. So I have to come over here on my own dime and get them to do their job, which what they should do is contact the Division of Elections. There's no earthly reason why they can't contact the Division of Elections. None. But they're not going to do it. They had their diversionary issue, the little, you know, beat up on the little woman. Okay, get 15 members of the Hispanic Coalition, you know, and God bless Hispanics. I did, you know, come on. But 15 members of the Hispanic Coalition came again to whoop up on a 78-year-old woman, and the media ate it up. A non-issue. Okay. You know, let's end racism. Yes, let's end racism. Okay. You would think this woman was Hitler the way they talk. So anyway, they conveniently, and then they had a gentleman. They had a gentleman who is a greenhouse guy, one of the greenhouse guys. I don't know if he's a plant, but you know, it just seems awful convenient to have this guy. And he was escorted away by the deputies, Hillsborough deputy. So that made for interesting diversion to prevent the county commission. The county commission, of course, can now claim, well, there were just so many things happening yesterday. We didn't. Oh, we couldn't. You know, we didn't. You know. Oh, we forgot all about that. But of course, they didn't vote to do what I suggested, which is, you know, tell the Division of Elections to investigate. That's perfectly reasonable, and it's their job. Okay. If they ignore this issue, okay, there's a point where they become complicit. If anything went wrong there's a point where they become complicit in whatever happened there, if they continue to ignore it. And I would like County Commissioner Les Miller to tell me what's more racist than disenfranchising his people, okay, and my people. Because when the African American vote, or the Hispanic vote, or the Democrat vote, or the student vote over here gets stolen, or the Republican vote gets stolen on this side of the state, my vote gets stolen on the other side of the state. I'm not sitting here, I'm saying I'm a civil rights worker, or you know, I'm not Martin Luther King over here. This is self-interest. You know? You know, we end up with this guy in the governor's mansion because of what went on here. What went on in Hillsborough County. We got that guy. And the impact on the classroom across the state in Brevard County, specifically to my kids, was instantaneous. The impact of his initiatives first year, the immediate, instant quality of life of the state of Florida went down. I mean, instantly. The teachers felt the pressure. Teachers had their lives overturned, their jobs turned into a 5-year temporary assignment with no more credibility in the eyes of the legislature and the governor and the school board than waiters and waitresses. You know, they were equated to essentially part-time waiters and waitresses. You know, so the impact of Rick Scott's election was nearly, I mean, the day he took office, the impact was instant. I'm going to do this and that. Teachers are the enemy. You know, teachers are the enemy. Did you know that? Oh yeah. You know, worst thing to hit this country since polio. Teachers. Did you know that? Were you aware of that? Yeah. So I'm not over here saying I'm a civil rights worker. I'm not Martin Luther King. I'm not, but I can't. I charge Les Miller to tell me what's more racist than disenfranchisement. What is more apt to bring indentured servitude and slavery of all of us than stealing our votes? But of course, it's much easier to excoriate a tiny little woman for being retrograde, for being from a different era. It's so much easier. Oh, these courageous people beat up on a little old lady. You go and look, ignore those big issues, and the media is just as culpable. Let's ignore a screwed up vote. Let's ignore it. They'll go away, sure. Well, it'll go, sure. Because that always works, to let people steal elections. I give you any number of examples where that works really good. From Uganda, Central America. I mean, where's Jimmy Carter? We don't even qualify for some of the regulations that Jimmy Carter suggested to the governments of Nicaragua. For instance, Nicaragua, when they got their vote back, he was down there trying to, look, this is how you have a proper vote. And we wouldn't even qualify under Jimmy Carter standards for fair elections in this country. We wouldn't. And I think somebody on rigged elections suggested that we contact the UN and plead our case to the UN that we don't have fair elections in the United States of America. And she's absolutely right. That is exactly right. She's absolutely right. And we have a real strong case because of anybody, when our votes get stolen, people die. My son's in the Marine Corps ROTC, He thinks I'm full of shit because he doesn't understand. Because he's 15. He doesn't get it. He doesn't know what's going on. He's a kid. He thinks I'm full of shit, so he's in the U.S. MC ROTC, and I'm proud of it. The Marine Corps is it's the priesthood of the armed services. It absolutely is, and he feels it, and it's a proud service, and I wouldn't denigrate it at all, but we send these kids off to die so that fucking scumbags in high towers in New York City can receive an uptick on their stock of 1 point. These that are sending our kids off to die in these fake-ass wars, and they're trying to do it again. They'll be damned if they don't do it again. And this time, it'll be my kid going over there, fucking coming back in pieces for these scum in these offices. Fucking scum that have put our economy in this position it's in. It makes me sick to my stomach. Sorry to use so many plain-spoken words. Anyway, with that, we'll call her back at you.
I appreciate the gentleman's concern. I think we should all be very diligent in making sure that votes are counted and accurately counted. But we should all be very diligent in making sure that votes are counted and accurately counted. But we did refer making sure that votes are counted and accurately counted. But we did refer your inquiry over to Supervisor Elections Office, which we don't have any jurisdiction over, and we have forwarded a basic response. It probably won't be satisfactory to you completely, but it did indicate that they identified the problem as a defective OSX tabulator unit. It was replaced. They checked it. They believe that it's working. But anyway, there has been an initial response to your inquiry, and then from that you can proceed with additional questions.
That closes the public comment portion of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the amendment? So moved. Motion, Commissioner Becker. For a second. Second, Commissioner Higginbotham. Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0.